Hi, I'm Katherine Ashmore, and welcome to the Mindset Exchange. Today's conversation is with someone I know personally and have worked with, life coach Michael Serwa. Michael's known for being direct, very direct. But what I've always appreciated about his style is it's never about ego or provocation, it's about clarity. You always know where you stand with him, and we think similarly on this. In my experience, that's a form of respect. In this episode, we talk about what directness really means when you're working with high performers, why self-doubt doesn't disappear just because someone looks successful, and the difference between amateurs and pros when things don't feel easy. We also explore where AI fits and where it doesn't, and when it comes to real personal growth, why challenge, judgment, and human connection still matter more than ever. If you're someone who expects a lot from yourself and values honest thinking over comfort, I think you'll appreciate this conversation. Let's go. Hi, Michael. Welcome. Thank you for joining me today. I have to say, I've been looking forward to this conversation as I've worked with you. So I know firsthand what it's like to sit opposite you, to see your warmth, to be challenged, and occasionally pushed in ways that definitely made me raise an eyebrow, in the best possible way, of course. But the audience hasn't had that experience. So today I'd love to talk not only about mindset, but also to offer a bit of a glimpse of some of the sides of you that they may not know. So to get started, can you share a quick snapshot of your coaching career, how long you've been doing this, and who you tend to coach?
Sure. First of all, thank you for having me. It's great to be here with you on this beautiful, what day is today? Tuesday morning. I've been coaching for 14 years now. I started very small at 20 pounds per session back in 2011. Prior to that, I was in fashion retail for 6 years. It's something completely unrelated to coaching, except that looking back, I can see clearly how I've been coaching people for 10 years, or around 10 years, before becoming a coach and coaching people in a more of a formal setting. So given that I started coaching at 28 and I've been doing it for 10 years, I started at 18, 19. When I say coaching, people would come to me for advice. And I would always be that old soul, mature for my age type person. And sure enough, it was always very easy for me to tell people what to do, right? So basically what I did, to give people advice, tell them what to do, share my opinions. So basically what I did in 2011, I turned my natural skill set into a profession. And sure enough, I've been into personal development as a field from the age of 23. So for 5 years before becoming a coach, I was very much deeply immersed in personal development. So when you combine the two, my natural interest in helping people, in advising people, and my passion for personal development, that made understandably quite a good cocktail for starting my coaching practice. And sure enough, it's been 14 years now, like I said, and I've never looked back.
Yeah. And I just want to touch a bit on your reputation and what you're known for. People know you for your intensity and, as you put it, your no BS approach. But what's one thing about you that might genuinely surprise people?
There is nothing about me that would surprise anyone who knows me, including yourself. So it's not like knows me as in like the way my mother knows me or like the closest people in my life know me. I'm very much an open book type person. I don't think there's anything I could share with anyone that I know, even at the level I know you, like we've known each other for a few years, but it's not like we spent hundreds of hours together, right? I don't think there's anything I could share with you that would surprise you, that would make you think, I did not see that coming. Really, Michael, you? Because I am who I am. I say what I think, and I am acutely aware that all I got to do sometimes is to say what I think. For some people to find it controversial or provocative. I'm not trying to be provocative or controversial. I just say what I think, and some people find it controversial. It's like, okay, but that's on you. It's certainly never my goal to try to offend anyone, but sure enough, by just speaking my truth, I occasionally offend people. They choose to get offended by something that I say. But coming back to your general question, the people who don't know me, or they just saw glimpses of me here and there, and I know that for a fact because sometimes people would come for initial consultation, which is how the coaching relationship with my clients always starts. There's always this a few hour long initial consultation for both parties to suss each other out, to see if this is the right fit. And sometimes people would say that, particularly female prospective clients, they would say something at the very end. They would say something like, "You're actually much nicer than I thought you're gonna be," and I was just like, "Who told you that I'm not nice?" Right? But I obviously understand how easily one can mistake one's directness, especially, as you know, I swear a fair bit, how relatively easy it might be to mistake that for someone just being an asshole, right? And as one of my former clients, Ange, said, I quote, she said, "Michael is the nicest asshole you will ever meet," right? So I think it's a good way of identifying that, how to put it, and not contrast, what's the word, like it's
juxtaposition.
Yeah, exactly, right? Like, I know who I am, you know who I am, and the people who know me know who I am. And as for everybody else, I genuinely don't give a fuck, right? If somebody wants to think I'm an asshole, just think I'm an asshole. Like, I'm not gonna be having sleepless nights because of that. I don't fucking know you, right? Like,
Yeah.
I don't care about you. I wish you well, but like, I don't care about you any more than just the way I care about anybody else that I don't know. So I know who I am, and I certainly don't go out of my way to try to prove to anyone that I might be nicer of a human being than they think I am, or something like that.
Yeah, and thanks for sharing that, because that leads me into something I was thinking about as well. And it's interesting that you brought up your female client and what she thought, because when we had our first chat to check the fit, I remember thinking, right, this is someone who's obviously charming, but absolutely won't let anything slip or slide. And I like that directness, where you stand with someone like that. And it's similar to how I think. Now, you've mentioned a bit that you are direct. Have you always been that direct, or has that been shaped, would you say, by your own journey as a coach?
Definitely always on the direct side. The best way I can explain it would be how, because my father is very much like that as well. So not only I have, obviously, half of my genes are his, I also was brought up in a household where he's still very much in charge of, right? So I suppose this is 50% nature and 50% nurture. Just growing up and watching my father dealing with people the way he's not a rude person. He's a pain in the ass. Like, he has a difficult personality, right? We all love him, right? Like my mother and my sister, we all love him, but we don't particularly like him. Right? Because he's a difficult character, right? That charming bit that you used to describe me, which I had been accused of before, full disclosure. My father doesn't have too much of it. He has that bluntness. But my mother, you see, is extremely charming and kind. So I feel like a good blend of my father's assertiveness and directness, but also my mother's kindness and empathy and compassion, which my father is not known for, right? But yeah, to your question, for as long as I remember, even as far as kindergarten, let alone primary school, I would always say what I think, and I didn't have that thing that most people are like, oh, it's a teacher, or it's not that I've had so much contact with police. It's a police officer, so therefore it's like, no, I'm a human being, you are a human being, and I need you to talk to me with a certain amount of respect, regardless of who you are. And if you don't, I will let you know that I have a problem with that. Right? And you can be anyone. This is particularly useful in my line of work, given the caliber of people I often work with, because when you think about it, those really successful people are not used to having people around them who don't give too much of a fuck about the status. And it's not that They don't mind me being the way I am with them. They like it. They appreciate it. They find it
Yeah.
refreshing, right? They crave is a strong word, but they lack people like me in the life who'd be willing to say, hey, listen, let's call him John. Listen, John, you full of shit. Like, or you're lying to yourself. Like, nobody talks to them like that, right? And I'm not saying that every day I talk to my clients like that, but sometimes I do. But even when I don't, they know that if they give me reason, I will. And then knowing that is enough, more often than not to say anything or do anything that would make me say it, right? So they know
Yeah.
that fear, they don't fear me. It's just respect, right?
Yeah.
And I often say how in life, I'm going on a tangent here a little bit, how in life we only ever get as much respect as we command. It's not like, oh, I'm a nice person and therefore I expect people to respect because I'm a nice human being. I don't wish anyone any harm and I don't understand why people don't respect me or walk over me sometimes or treat me in a certain way that I don't appreciate. Well, yes, because you fucking, because they think they can, right? So toughen up, right? It's not a zero-sum game where we have to choose between being nice and compassionate and pathetic like my mother and being a fucking Mr. Assertive like my father. One can be both or try to be both at the same time, right? And I
Yeah.
recognize that there is time for me to be nice and compassionate and empathetic and forgiving. And there is time for me to be hard on people, right? And it's about knowing, and this is easier said than done. It's about knowing how to be and when and with who. And obviously this is, it's a very complex field of what I refer to as social dynamics. And I'm far from being a master at it. I will never be a master at it. I can only ever strive to become a master at it. And it's a lifelong journey. But I definitely feel like every year that passes, I get better and better at knowing how to communicate with people effectively in a way that I am still being seen as someone who gives a shit, who cares.
Yeah.
At the same time, I'm certainly not being seen, because I'm very certain of that. I'm certainly not being seen as someone who can be walked over.
Yeah, I think it's a fine balance, especially with the type of people that we coach, where they can be surrounded by yes people. And it's that fine balance of directness where it can either build trust or it can break rapport. And I think all of us as coaches are constantly learning how to get that balance right.
I know, unless I'm completely delusional, I know that I can be very harsh. And by harsh, just to be clear to anybody listening, by harsh, I mean, first of all, I never shout at anyone, not just client. I never shout. I never raise my voice. I swear a lot, but I never swear at people. Right? So when I say harsh, I don't mean like I'm exploding here. It's like, John, what the fuck did you do? You say, like, no, by harsh, I mean just direct, right? I believe that I can, quote unquote, get away with it at all times because I believe that every single one of my clients knows that fundamentally I have the best interest in mind, and I'm not doing it when I'm being hard on them. I'm
Mm.
not doing it because I get some pleasure from it. I don't. It's not a power trip. It's not an ego trip. I have a massive ego, but my ego expresses itself in different ways. So I don't need that to express it. It's just because I care. It's easier to say nothing than to say to someone, sorry, Katherine, you have lettuce in between your teeth. It's easier not to say anything, right? It's easier to pretend that, not pretend, it's easier to, because like, oh, it's a bit awkward, shall I say it? It's just easier to say nothing, but I choose, and it's not always easy for me to, believe it or not, to say to people, to quote unquote, take the fucking lunch from between the teeth, right? But I've made that commitment to myself that if I think something, I will say it, right? And
Yeah.
sure enough, I'm surrounded by people who not only can take it, but they appreciate it. Not just take
Yeah.
it, they also appreciate it. I'll take it further. They expect it from me. They want it from me. They come to me often precisely because they believe that I will tell them when they have the fucking letters between the teeth, so to speak.
Yeah. And they need that. We all need that. And when you're coaching at an elite level, what are you paying attention to, would you say, that most people might miss? For example, what separates good coaching from exceptional coaching?
So there's this saying like how we can't teach the experience. So when I look back to 2011, 2012, 2013, when I was a quote unquote baby coach, my passion was there. From day one, my complete dedication to success of my clients was there from day one. But I didn't have that many hours of coaching under my belt yet. So to your question, the experience, the wealth of experience, it's a massive factor here. And not just experience of working with people, but in my case, working predominantly with high achievers, right? Which are still people. I don't think that people like you and I, all of my clients, are better than anybody else just because we're fucking high achievers, right? Like on a human level, I generally don't think ever that I'm better than anyone, right? But yes, we are built differently. And I recognize that the people who come to me, because they are high achievers themselves. So when I first started, I was charging £20 per session, £50 per session, 75, £100 per session. With those kind of fees, pretty much anyone could afford to work with, right? So the first few years, I would work with a fair share of high achievers, as well as some more quote unquote normal people, if you will. Whereas the last few years in particular, I've been exclusively working with high achievers. And there's absolutely no way, the way I see it, that high achiever would choose to work with a coach unless they saw that coach as a high achiever as well. Because it's about that whole thing, how this coach will be able to relate to me if they have no ambition themselves. If they're lazy, if they don't take pride in their appearance, if they just just trying to survive and they don't even think about thriving. How am I supposed to relate to this person? Or how is this person supposed to relate to me if I'm a high achiever with big goals, right? So there is definitely a set of not massive differences, but a set of small to medium-sized differences between coaching that quote-unquote average person versus coaching a high achiever. And it starts from understanding the difference between the mindset of the average person versus the mindset of the high achiever, which, as you know, the mind of the high achiever, it never fucking stops. Right? It's like, what else can I do? Okay. How can I make something that's already very good even better? Sometimes I wish I could switch that fucking thing off, right? Because it's 24/7. From the moment I wake up to the moment I go to sleep, 24/7, 365 is this relentless internal pursuit of trying to be better coach, better man, better human being. How can I make my flat look better? How can I make my hair look better, which is always a losing battle, this one. How can I make my fucking perfect website to look even more perfect? And it's a constant, never ending, but full disclosure, I'm not complaining because I certainly don't mind it. And in a way, I enjoy it. But yeah, like I said, sometimes I wish to just, switch that off and at least for one day or one holiday to just do nothing and be okay, be content at doing nothing. And I really struggle with that, right? And I see that to be one of the common characteristics between me and most of my clients, if not all of my clients. This difficulty in doing absolutely fucking nothing and enjoying themselves while they're doing nothing, right? For more than I can do it, but for a few hours. And then after that, it's like, oh, let me just look at my LinkedIn profile. Just the about me section. Just like, oh, okay, I can come back. I can go back to watching Netflix now. And then 2 hours later, let me just have a look at my website, which I've looked at 2,000 times, this year. What else could I like? Oh, how is my? Oh, let me open my wardrobe and see how the things are configured on the shelves that I have. If there is a more I wouldn't say that the last thing that I said is to do with being a high achiever. It's more to do with being fucking OCD, which I am as well, right? But interesting enough, sidetracking slightly, we say in personal development that we attract what we are. And sure enough, me being OCD, me being a minimalist, me being a perfectionist, sure enough, I attract a lot of fellow, OCD/perfectionists as coaching clients, right? And I think think one way to explain is like how people go through different websites of different coaches, and they come across my website and they see what they see, which is basically the most fucking minimalistic coaching website on the planet. And their OCD appreciates it, right? They're like, oh my God, this is so different, right? Like, oh, I like it.
Yeah, completely. And as you mentioned, we do work with people who are driven, successful in their own right, and working with the elite, people who appear extraordinarily successful on the outside. What would you say the most common area, and I know this can be a bit like how long is a piece of string, but what would you say is the most common area that they seek coaching from you for?
Yeah, it's definitely not. There are exceptions, but if we're talking about those most successful clients or prospective clients who come to me, successful as in financially successful, to be clear, as you can imagine, they certainly don't come to me for me to help them to make even more money. It's not about the money for them. It's about how they feel like other areas of their lives are not where they could be. And sometimes, sure enough, they build the financial success to the detriment of those other areas, right? So by other areas, I mean predominantly relationships, health and fitness, right? Those two areas, right? Because when you think about it, no matter how much money you have, if you don't have a good network of people in your life, whether it's family or friends or whatever, a team of some sort, and or good health and fitness, then yes, you have millions in the bank, but you're not happy, right? So I would rather be making 30K or 35K per year, which is what I used to make in retail, and be happy than make millions per year and be unhappy. Because is that really success? If you are wealthy, financially speaking, but you are unhappy, are you successful? Not to my definition of success. My definition of success is having a 10 out of 10 life. And in order to have a 10 out of 10 life, we obviously need to consider all areas of life, not just one or the other, right? And the way I see the three core areas that we need to look into or we need to look at and sometimes into in order to improve them is, in no particular order, our professional life, our personal / dating life, so relationships basically. And the third one is health and fitness, right? And when we have those three where they need to be, and obviously there's no one size fits all type, like number of this financial or like the people in our lives or body fat percentage, whatever. So whatever that is for you, whatever you feel like you need in order to feel like, okay, I have enough, right? Yeah. I have enough money to not to worry about it too much. I'm happy with the relationships that I have in my life. They don't need to be perfect. Like nobody's going to have all the relationships in their life being perfect, right? Like I was talking about my dad. I love my dad, but fuck me, talking to him, I call my mother a lot. She's the closest person in my life, and we always have a great time, and we can talk for hours, like literally. And it's like, what did we talk about for the last an hour and a half? just right? Whereas with my father, 5 minutes can feel on the phone can feel like 20 minutes sometimes, right? But we don't choose our family members, right? There's this quote, I'm not religious, but the quote is, our friends are God's way to apologize for the family members. Right? Because we don't get to choose our family members, right? And then health and fitness, again, it's not about having fucking six packs. I don't have a six pack. I couldn't care less about having a six pack. Who cares about a six pack over the age of 17 or 18? It's like, come on, like if you're a man listening to this, and especially if you're single and you think getting a six pack is gonna get you like some action or fucking get a job, right? Like your six pack is not gonna pay for a nice holiday, right? So like get your fucking priorities right as a man, right? But for me, and it's something that I always do during those initial consultations that I have, is this assessment where I ask people to score themselves out of 10 on 25 different areas. And sure enough, the 25th area, the one at the bottom, is almost always is the exact average. What people say on the general happiness is almost always the exact mathematical average of how they scored the 24 areas on top.
Yeah.
And those 24 areas on top would be anything you can think of, things like love, life, career, finance, health, fitness, work-life balance, confidence, self-love, etc., motivation, etc. Right? So that's as far as the answer to the question, what the secret to happiness goes. There's no secret. And that's great news. You fucking work on those 24 areas, you get them to a reasonably high level, you're going to be happy at the end of the day, guaranteed. I don't see exceptions. I don't recall ever seeing an exception where someone would score high on those 24 areas on top. So let's say, 6, 8, 7, 5, 9, 8, 8, 8, 7, 6, and then they would end up with 3 on a general happiness. It doesn't work like that, right? So I see that as a great news, because if we are in control, if we have the power to influence our happiness level, then that's wonderful, right? If someone thinks, oh, happiness is something some people are born with and some people are born without, which is absolutely not true, then that's problematic, because then if they believe that someone who was born unhappy and they're genetically hardwired to be unhappy, then they're going to have obviously a very hard time doing something about it, because then they see that reason as being external to themselves, and therefore they can't help themselves, right? But I know for a fact, after doing it for 14 years, that we are 100% able to turn our life around, to make ourselves happier. And coming back to your original question, which I haven't forgotten, those elite clients, yes, they come with often a lot of money to the name. People who come to me, they're not unhappy per se, right? And this is like subjective, like what's happy, what's unhappy. Like, how do you need to score this from 0 to 10 for this? So where I'm going with this, most of the people come to me, and when we do this assessment, they score themselves anywhere between 4 and 6 on that happiness level, right? So they're not unhappy, because for me, unhappy would be maybe 0, 1, or 2, right? That's like really unhappy, probably the shrink, not a life coach, because there's some dysfunction in your life, and we're not here to help you with that. We're just not equipped, qualified to help you with that. But you certainly need help. You in fact, you need more help, obviously, than the person who is 4, 5, or 6 on the happiness level, right? So then they would come to me, and then we would look at the areas. It's not finances, typically, right? We look at the areas, and it's very easy to see those areas, because this assessment tells us, okay, what are the things in your life, which areas are currently dragging your general happiness score down? So then we identify those areas, and sure enough, people come up really fucking smart. So like, oh, I didn't realize until I came and saw you today that my love life was shit, or my fitness. I mean, they're very self-aware, right? And then sure enough, the coaching process is about, the journey I take them on is about improving the areas which are currently bringing that happiness, the sense of contentment down. And then we do the work that we do, and then sure enough, when we do this assessment, typically a few months later, when we do it for the second time, the areas that we are working on, the scores went up, and sure enough, because they went up, now the general happiness score, more often than not, is at 8 out of 10. So it goes from 4, 5, or 6 to begin with to typically 8 out of 10 by the end of the process.
And it's amazing. Thanks for sharing that, Michael. It's amazing, actually, how many different things feed into it that a lot of people really aren't aware of. I mean, for example, sometimes I say, what's your score with fun? And they haven't thought about having fun for a very long time, which has a marked impact on happiness. I mean, it really is a privilege. One of the things I wanted to ask about was, despite all of that success, there's also something that maybe isn't talked about a lot with these type of clients, which is no matter who we are, we all get self-doubt. And
100%.
when you're thinking about what does self-doubt look like at that level, what would surprise people most about it, would you say?
Oh, the number one thing the quote-unquote average person will be very surprised to hear when it comes to successful people, financially successful people, is how they doubt themselves as often, or at least almost as often as everybody else. They just do that thing that they set up to do regardless of how they feel. So I often talk about how the key difference between amateurs and pros whether that's in sports or in life, any game that we play, right? I happen to be playing the game called coaching. Some of my clients play the money game. They want to make more money. They like money a lot. I'm not allergic to money, but that's never been my drive. Like money has never been my drive. But at the same time, I totally understand that for some people, for many people, that's the drive, right? And I help them with whatever they need help with. For some people, it's fitness and health. For some people, it's, trying to sleep with as many people as possible, each to their own kind of thing, right? But in terms of self-doubts, we all have self-doubts. I have self-doubts after 20 years almost of personal development and coaching for 14 years. The imposter syndrome, like so many of my clients suffer from imposter syndrome. And it's not something that, again, the average member of society, like, really? I mean, this person is freaking CEO of, they make $1 million a year, 5 million a year. Surely they feel great about themselves at all times, right? They absolutely don't. They absolutely don't. And the trouble is for those guys, for those people, is that when you are broke, when you are fat, when you are whatever, like, you can complain about life, and then you will get so much sympathy. It's like, oh, yes, I hear what you're saying. But when you are successful in the eyes of the society, it's very hard to complain. There's very few people you can talk to who wouldn't look at you like, what the fuck are you talking about? Haven't you collected $500,000 bonus from Morgan Stanley last February? Like, you have no right to complain. Whereas I stand for the rich people, right? Because I've met so many of them. I understand them. I got to understand them on a very deep level. At one point, I became rich myself, right? So I can also speak from a personal experience. Money solves a lot of problems, but it certainly doesn't solve all of the problems. Far from it, right? And it certainly doesn't solve the problem of occasional self-doubts.
Yeah.
Back to your general question, right? And it's that difference between amateurs and pros that I was talking about, how the amateurs in any discipline, any area of life, sports or any area of life, amateurs do what they know they need to do when they feel like doing it, when they wake up after a good night of sleep and they got a nice text from someone they went on a date with 2 days ago, and they feel all motivated and cheerful. It's like, oh, yes, I can go to the gym today. Oh, so the sun is shining, right? But then on a day when they feel like, it's fucking pissing rain, it's like, oh, my date bailed on me, or like I didn't sleep. I was like, the gym, no, I'm going to skip the gym today. That's the amateur mindset, right? And as long as someone has this mindset, they will forever be fucking amateurs. Because then the pros on the other side do what they know they need to do, regardless of how they feel about doing it.
Yeah.
They get up and fucking execute on what they need to execute on, unless something really terrible happens, like they break the fucking leg or they lose a loved one, right? So obviously there will be times where, I don't care how much of a pro you are, you will be affected to the point where you're going to need to adjust or either skip completely or adjust your routine. I understand that. But for the most part, I'm thinking about my client, Steve. So Steve won bronze medal rowing for Team GB in Beijing in 2008. I remember working with Steve back in 2016, 2017. I remember him telling me how, when he was preparing for the Olympics, when he was in his 20s, how rowing, right? Fucking hell. It's not ping pong, right? You are in an indoor hole somewhere, and you just, I'm sure to get to that level of ping pong to enter Olympics is super hard as well. But rowing in the middle of the English winter on the river somewhere, I remember him describing it to me one time, how when he was playing Olympics, like 5 o'clock in the morning, he's rowing in the middle of the winter, pitch fucking black, pissing rain, right? And I'm thinking to myself, I mean, this guy's fucking crazy. But
it's discipline.
But if you want to enter Olympics, like I would never in a million years do what he did, right? Be on a fucking boat and rowing for hours in a piss. I wouldn't do it on a sunny day.
Yeah, I mean, it's an incredible mindset, isn't it? But
Yes.
given the discipline and that way of thinking that they have, or we have, that where you will do things even if things aren't going your way, you'll still keep going. Even if you're
Yeah.
unwell, you'll still keep going. That sort of mindset. Do you
Yeah.
ever see high performers hitting an internal ceiling where their mindset actually holds them back more than their ability? And if so, what usually causes that, would you say?
That's an interesting question. And speaking of self-doubts, or coming back to speaking of self-doubts, what could cause that internal block is, do I really believe that I can get that thing that
Mm,
I want to get? So I know what I need to do externally, let's say
yeah.
train for a ultra marathon of some sort, of ultra run. I have actually a client right now called Martin, who's a pro ultra runner. He recently won. He wouldn't mind me sharing his identity because I was talking about him on my LinkedIn with his permission. So the world knows that he's a client of mine. He recently won ultra trail running race in Brazil, 330 kilometers.
Amazing.
200, he won, so he's a world champion. It took him, if I remember correctly, 46 and a half hours. 46 and a half hours, no sleep, you can take breaks, but the longer breaks you take, the less likely you are to win the fucking thing, because then
Yeah.
other people start to running, right? So using someone like Martin as an example, he knows, he's been doing it for a while, he's very experienced, he's one of the best in the world at what he does. He's an elite athlete, literally an elite athlete in his discipline. He knows, and we talked about it, I've actually learned a lot about elite mindset in the context of elite performance in sports from Martin, because we did have a series of conversations about it. It's like how he knows that on a technical, if you will, or external level, he has all the knowledge, all like everything he needs, right? Because he knows what he's doing. And he told me, I remember, very well, him telling me that when it comes to ultra running, and ultra running, as I've learned from him, ultra run, anything beyond the length of a marathon, any race that is longer than the length of the marathon, be considered as an ultra race or ultra run. So yeah, very long runs, basically, right? So he told me that it's not about the physical ability, right? Because all those ultra runners, or let's say the top 1,000 of ultra runners, would have a similar level of technical ability. It's the mindset. It's who believes the most,
Yeah.
right? And who is, like, to your question, who is the most effective in overcoming those inner, and I can't even begin to imagine what must be going through the head of someone who is consistently running for some races. This was relatively short for him, 46 and a half hours, but some races he would run for around 75 hours. For me, staying awake for 75 hours, doing my favorite thing, coaching, dating, drinking wine, watching Netflix for 75 hours without sleep, I don't think I could do that, right?
Yeah.
And now he wasn't doing that. He was running. And if he doesn't place the first, he places the second or third. I mean, he's, like I said, top, 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 top. And he said, it's all about the mindset. It's
Yeah.
all about the mindset. Who wants it more? Who can, these are not his words, but that's how I understood it. Who can override that internal voice that tells you to stop? Because obviously, when you think about it, in a situation like that, and this will apply to any areas of life, most
Yeah.
areas of life, because when you think about it, the nature is not interested in us thriving. That's not in nature's interest for us to thrive. The only thing the Mother Nature cares about is our survival, right? So we can survive, so we can make babies, so the human race can, right? So every time, so this is the best way I can explain it. Every time we attempt to do, or we think about doing, or we try to do, or in Martin's case, we are already doing it, our mind will try to play any fucking trick imaginable, right? We'll try to do everything that it can because the nature will be communicating to the mind, and the mind will be communicating to us, and we are not our mind, is how I see it. So the mind will be like, come on, Martin, you've been running for 10 hours. Take a break. You are allowed to take a break. You can fucking take a nap. You can sleep for an hour, because those races, like, you can run, you can walk, you can stop, you can sleep, you can eat, you can make phone calls, you can do whatever the fuck you want. It's just whoever gets from A to B the fastest is the winner. So let's bring it, because this is obviously extreme. We're talking about extreme level of an athlete. But we can bring it to the level of someone who is single and wants to meet someone. It's like, oh my God, fucking online dating apps and going on dates is so much hard work, and then dealing with rejection, which is inevitable. I don't care who you are, you're gonna get rejected more often than not. You're gonna be ghosted, people will bail on you, and then your mind will be like, just leave it, just don't worry about it, just, no, you're okay being single. And you know deep inside that you don't want to be single. If you don't want to be single, you know deep inside that that's not what you want. And then it's like, yeah, I suppose I should maybe at the very least create a fucking Hinge account or Bumble account, right? But then it's like, oh, it's like all those guys, like if it's a woman, all those guys, they're so fucking lame, and they send the same messages, like they copy and paste, and like go on dates, and they don't look like the pictures half of the time, because they post the pictures from then when they were 40 and then they are 60 now. And it's like, I know it's messy, but if you want the things that most people do not have, you need to be willing to do the things that most people are not willing to do, right?
Yeah.
And yes, whether it's an ambitious fitness goal, whether it's an ambitious dating or relationship goal, because I was talking about single people, but it's the same when we are in a fucking relationship with someone. It's fucking hard work. I've been in 5, to be exact, regular relationships in my life. This shit is harder, and I consider myself as being good with people, right? Comes with the job, right? Being in a fucking relationship, living with a woman, and I love women, so it's like a sexist thing, but living with a woman with a very feminine, because that's my type, living with a very feminine woman in one space, it's fucking harder than running a business. It's hard work. But then what's the alternatives? Like, for most people, so I'm an exception. I'm single by choice, and I want to remain single, right? But I do recognize that I'm just different. But the vast majority of people, including just about every single one of my clients that I can think of, is either in a relationship or want to be in a relationship. Like, well, it's fucking hard work. So if you know where you want to be in this relationship, what do you do about it? Are you trying to fix it? There's always something that you can do, unless you convince yourself that you can't. It is what it is. It's like, with fat people sometimes, what you gotta do? I mean, I have thick bones. And I say, yeah, thick bones my ass, right? Like, I will show you someone who has even thicker bones than you, who has lost weight. So don't give me, like, you can feed yourself with this bullshit, you can feed other people with this bullshit, but I'm not buying it, right? I'm big on taking a personal responsibility. And as I said before already, like, how, when we look at it like that, when we understand that we are in charge of our destiny, if you will, we are in control of our happiness, that gives us an enormous amount of power to change whatever we need to change in order to build the life we want to build for ourselves.
Yeah, exactly. And once you take back that power, it's very liberating, because it's up to you then. And we both talk about transformation a lot. In your experience, outside that taking back your power aspect we just touched on, what's the smallest internal change or shift that tends to create the biggest external impact, would you say?
The first thing that came to my mind was something very simple, is to believe. To believe that you can, is to believe that you are enough, is to believe that you can have that thing that you want. Because when you think about it, if you don't have that belief, like, again, coming back to this dating analogy, imagine going on all of those dates with this belief that it's not going to work anyway. You might as well not go on those dates, because you just manifest that outcome, right? So it starts with the belief. I definitely recommend for people not to get to the point of delusion. Like, oh, I believe, it's like me. If I was to say, I believe I can play in Manchester City, my favorite team, last time I played football was in primary school. I wasn't that good at it. I was average at best. I'm 42. I couldn't run 100 meters before I get a fucking run into a risk of heart attack. No matter how much I would want to play for a Premier League football club, it's just not going to happen, right? So do believe, but be realistic. The same way, I could use another analogy, like, oh, I would love to work for NASA. I don't, thank God, because I would never get the job there. I would love to work for NASA. Michael, you're not smart enough. No, I'm very smart, but not in the right way smart. But a smart ass, right? You have a high level of so-called social intelligence, EQ, and your IQ is okay, but nowhere near high enough to get a job at NASA, right? So what we wouldn't want is to spend our life, too much of our life, especially if it's a month or two, that's fine, 6 months, trying to achieve something that we just not built to achieve, right? So it's like I talk about how you can have anything you want, but when I say things like that, I mean it. But what I mean by that is you can have anything you want as long as it's within the realm of possibility of what's possible for you.
Yeah.
Right. So if you are fucking paralyzed from the waist down, and you want to take part in like regular Olympics, it's just not gonna happen. You just fucking accept it. Don't fucking it's certain things that are just not possible for all of us, right? And there won't be a single person on the planet, not a single person on the planet. I don't care how rich and beautiful and privileged and well educated, that could be good at everything, right? Like there is the saying, I heard someone saying, like, how you wouldn't want to have Einstein in your basketball team. That's not a guy you want in your fucking basketball team, right? And equally, if there was a risk of us being hit by some fucking asteroid of some sort, and they were assembling a team of the smartest people on the planet to try to fucking prevent that from happening, I wouldn't be calling Michael Jordan to join that team, as much as I respect the guy, right? Because we all have different fucking talents. And by all, I mean all. I really believe that every single person on the planet has some talent that is unique to them.
Yeah.
Now, that's not the same as saying every single person on the planet has a talent and knows that they have that talent. That's a different story, right? Mm-hmm. But I believe that every single person out there is better at something, at least one thing. Some of us, more than one thing, but at least one thing that this person be better than most people. Yeah. It's about recognizing that is true, or that could be true at least, and then identifying what that thing is, and then not taking it for granted, because some people, and I've seen that, how sometimes people would have that talent, they'll be aware that they are very good at that thing, but because as human beings, we normalize the things that come naturally to us, they don't see it as a big deal. I'm like, do you realize how good you are at, I don't know, writing? Oh, am I? Like, listen, I'm not fucking expert, but I know a thing or two about writing. Your writing is really fucking good, right? Oh, I never, because like when you think about it, I doubt Adele wakes up in the morning thinking, my voice is so magnificent. Or Ed Sheeran wakes up in the morning, not that that's not my type of music necessarily, I'm just using those well-known. Ed Sheeran waking up, I'm so fucking talented. Right? Because we normalize what we're good at. Yeah. And the idea is to stop sometimes, like, hold on a minute. I think I'm really fucking good at this thing. And I had those multiple people. If we're really lucky, our parents would tell us, or our teachers, somebody, a mentor, coach, or some sort of person that we trust and respect will help us to identify that thing. And then we can double down on it. But I really believe in human potential. Yeah. I really believe that we are capable, not just high achievers, we are capable of much more than we give ourselves credit for or permission for, right? Yeah. And there's so much untapped potential out there in all of us, myself included, I'm sure. It's not like, I'm the hardest working person on the planet. I never procrastinate. Of course I fucking procrastinate. And I do a lot. Could I do more? Of course I could do more. Everybody can do more. Elon Musk could do more. Should he do more? I wouldn't recommend it. He's going to fucking, run himself to the ground. But we all can do more. Doesn't mean that we have to, but the potential is there. there are people who, starting with coaches, right? I suppose starting with friends, but if not, then coaches. There are people out there like you and I who literally get paid. This is our day job to help people identify those talents and then help them get the most out of those talents. Why not using that help? That help is available, right?
Yeah.
Widely available.
Yeah, and as you say, quite often people don't recognize what's actually creating that blind spot to tap
Yeah,
into what they're capable
yeah,
of. And
yeah,
that's why it's such a, I think it's such a privilege to do what we do. It's really,
yeah.
like you, I believe absolutely everyone has a gift to share with the world. And it's about untapping that. It's quite exciting. But thinking about that in a different way, is there something in your own mindset or philosophy that you've changed your mind about in the last few years?
When I found out that I needed, because it wasn't my decision, the place I used to live in Mayfair for 11 and a half years till recently, um, there were 12 penthouses on top. That's why flat 2 was on level 6, which would confuse the shit out of people. Like, how come number 2 is on level 6, right? And the reason why it was like that is because in the same building owned by the same landlord, there are 5 floors of offices underneath. And because, long story short, because the landlord decided to do some very extensive refurbishment works on the 5 floors below, the council wouldn't let them to do that with tenants being on top, right? So on the 11th of July, we all got a letter, me and my 11 neighbors, that whenever our 12 months of expires. So where I'm going with this, for over a decade, my identity as a as a human being, as a man, as a coach, was very much linked to Mayfair. Like I'm a Mayfair guy. Like everybody knew me as like the Mayfair guy. Like the fucking self-proclaimed sheriff of Mayfair, right? This is my hood. Any problems, you let me know. Nothing bad can happen to anyone in my fucking neighborhood. Which, if I remember correctly, Queen Elizabeth, the late Queen Elizabeth, was born in Mayfair. Churchill used to live there for a while, and then obviously Michael Serwa for 11 and a half years. So quite a good list. And then, sure enough, when I knew I need to find a new place, I didn't even think for a second that the new place would be outside of Mayfair, because I'm a Mayfair guy, right? But after more than a few, close to 10, I can't remember exactly, maybe 8, very uninspiring viewings. It was like fucking online dating. Oh, that looks good on the app. you go and view it and you think to yourself, huh? This much for that? I wouldn't want to live here. I didn't say it to the agents, obviously, but I was thinking sometimes, in some cases, I was thinking, I wouldn't want to live here, even if they paid me that money per month, every month to live here, because it was so just bad. And you were obviously just being asked to pay a lot just because of the fucking postcode, whatever. And then how I ended up in South Kensington, where I am now, over the last few months, was by just thinking one day, fucking hell, this search in Mayfair is not going too well. I don't have a limited amount of time. I need to find something very specific, not something that will only be suitable for me, as in something that I will like. It also has to have the right setup for when my clients come in, because 50% of my clients I see in person, and the setup I have in here has to be right for the clients. The communal area has to be right for the clients. The street has to be like, the whole fucking everything has to be the right for the clients, given the particular image I absolutely need to convey, right? I thought, okay, let me just see what's out there. And then I thought, all this time ago in 2013, when I was ready to move from the ghetto in Southeast London, where I used to live previously, in a very modest area of Southeast London, when I was ready to move to Central London, I was debating between Mayfair and South Kensington, because these are my two favorite areas in London, right? I thought, I remember it was Saturday, and the day before I had viewed 2 or 3 places in Mayfair, and I was like, fuck, this is not good. It's like, and I loved my previous place, right? And I was like, let me just see what's in South Kensington, So, and I'm on the first page of Rightmove, the Hinge or the Bumble of property search, right? And on the first page, I saw the pictures of this place, And I had a similar feeling to the feeling I had, or like similar, almost identical feeling to the feeling I had when I saw the pictures of the previous place all those years ago. I just fucking knew it. I just fucking knew it. I remember thinking, I'm going to go and view it, even though it's in South Kensington. I'm thinking, but I'm a Mayfair guy, but like this place is so beautiful from the pictures. I need to go and view it. And if it's going to look even 80% as good as the fucking pictures, it's going to be a done deal, right? Because I feel it in my body, that the pull towards this place, right? And sure enough, I came to view it. And not only it was at least 80% as good, as it was even better in real life. So I went from being the Mayfair guy for all those years with no intention of ever leaving my previous place. Like I was planning to stay there forever because since I don't have plans to start a family, subject to change, my mother's fucking praying for it. Then why would I ever need a bigger place than that previous place that I had, right? 1 bedroom, right? Like, why would I? You know, one person, right, with fucking 17 items of clothing. I don't need a lot of storage space, etc., right? And then now I'm thinking, I prefer South Kensington over Mayfair. Now, so if you asked me 6 months ago about, like, can you imagine moving from Mayfair?
It's an evolution.
Yeah, why? Like Mayfair is perfect for me, or so I thought.
Yeah.
Or so I thought, because not only this place is considerably better, you would need to come and see it like for yourself. Not only the place itself is considerably better overall than my previous place, but also like the area. It's not that it's better necessarily, it's comparable, but it's different. It's more suitable for Michael version 2025, almost 2026. I spent my entire 30s in Mayfair, and that was perfect for me in that phase of my life. And this is something that we want to be mindful of in life in general. Just because someone or something was right for us or good for us in a certain period of our life, it doesn't mean that we should stick to that person or that thing for the rest of our life. And sometimes when you are not fucking smart enough, because obviously nobody was stopping me from doing the search before I got that fucking letter on the 11th of July. Nobody was stopping me from seeing what's out there in South Ken, right? I could leave the previous place at any point, and it never crossed my mind, right? And this was one of those moments, and I've had quite a few of those moments in my life.
Yeah. It's quite interesting, isn't it? How sometimes things are just thrown in one's path. And actually, you have that, it's not necessarily a sink or swim moment, but you have that moment where it's like that growth mindset where you just got to go for it. And through that we grow, and one's eyes are open to new experiences, and it's enriching in different ways that we don't even know, which is one of the things we often coach people with, isn't it? So I'm going to go digress because we're running out of time. But I'm going to talk about something completely different, which is quite an interesting topic, and maybe there could be a complete podcast episode on this one. But I'd love your take on something very current, which is, what's your view on AI coaching? Do you think it's the future of personal growth or just another shiny new toy?
Great question. So I remember when I downloaded ChatGPT in, I believe it was May of 2023. I was the first person, not boasting, I'm just reporting, but from what I remember, I was the first person I knew who I heard about it. I was like, I'm not a super early adopter when it comes to things, but like I'm always often on the early side, right? Like, let me just download it and play it, like whatever, right? So, and I know because then I remember how many clients at the time I've introduced to ChatGPT. They heard the name, but they didn't have it on the phone. I was like, hey, ChatGPT, like, oh yeah, I heard about it. Let me show you how it works. And I would have it on my iPad. And if it's like face-to-face session, especially, I would just, and people would go, oh, damn, this is pretty fucking smart. Like I told you. Anyway, so to your question, I downloaded it, I played with it, and I remember two things. The first thing was, damn, this thing is good. This thing is fucking smart. I was really impressed. And the second thing was, I asked myself, and I do consider that to be a very important question, and especially the type of question that anyone in the field of copywriting, anyone in the field of screenwriting, solicitors, accountants, most of them as coaches, that's the question they should fucking ask themselves as that thing came out. Because I remember asking myself, could this be a potential threat to my profession, to my bottom line, to my business, to my whatever we call it, right? And I really took my time with this. It wasn't like, yes or no. It was like, I remember I sat there and I really took the fucking time because I was acutely aware that it was important for me to get it right, to not to be like, no, it's gonna be fine, because that's what Blockbuster did, that's what Kodak did, that's what Nokia did, and we know how those fucking stories ended up, right? BlackBerry, like, no, like fucking iPhone, like who wants to like, when was the last time you saw someone using BlackBerry, right? So I took my time, and I'm not talking about, I took 3 hours, but I thought about it, and I concluded that the answer is no. Like, I don't need to worry about this being my competition or this being a competition to us personal coaches. But that's May 2023, right? Now we are in December of 2025. My view is slightly different, not massively different, but slightly different. And the view is that coaches like you and I, coaches who are already established, coaches who are operating at a certain level, working with a certain caliber of people, we still don't need to worry about it, because the people who come to us are people who are already using ChatGPT, and they still come to us, right? Because they recognize that, yeah, ChatGPT is super fucking smart, but especially now you see that people talk about it a lot on LinkedIn. It's like how, and I've noticed, I have a very close relationship with ChatGPT. I love ChatGPT. I use it a lot, 10 to 20 times a day, every day. And like I said, I've showed it to countless amounts of people over the last 2.5 years. However, the coaches at the very bottom of the pyramid, the coaches who follow the ICF, and for those of you who don't know, most of you probably, ICF stands for International Coaching Federation. The coaches who follow the ICF rules of just sitting there, because that's how I see, just sitting there, creating fucking safe space and asking open-ended questions, and that's it. You will be replaced, not all of you, but many of you will be replaced by the likes of ChatGPT. That's my theory. Obviously, I can't know it for certain, but that will be my prediction. Why? Because the value of a coach like that, of a, let's call it a passive coach, is not that valuable. ChatGPT already, and obviously ChatGPT is the dumbest it's ever going to be, right? At any point, ChatGPT and the likes of ChatGPT, Gemini, and all of those other platforms are as dumb as they will ever be. They will only get smarter and smarter and smarter. And already I can see how ChatGPT and the likes of ChatGPT can do exactly this, not dissimilar job to the job of the coach who's just sitting there asking good questions, right? And not sharing any opinions. So obviously ChatGPT shares opinions, but just because it shares opinions, it doesn't mean that people will necessarily be smart enough, blindly follow those opinions. Because if there's one thing I've learned about ChatGPT, and like I said, I really fucking like it, it does have a tendency to be quite agreeable, yes, right?
I was just going to say.
And that's not what, certainly not high achievers want from their advisors or coaches, right? That's why I made that separation between how people like you and I, people who work with a different type of clientele, those people, I think, and I really hope I'm not getting it wrong, because otherwise, I'll be in trouble in terms of not having any clients, because people will be just talking to AI agents or AI tools instead. Especially people of a higher caliber will appreciate getting a take of another human being, someone that they trust. And also, one thing that, as we all know, one thing that I don't care how intelligent those tools become, one thing they will never be able to do is to replace the human connection.
Yeah.
Right?
100%.
Because it's even if Elon Musk is talking about those guys being around by, I heard by 2030, the fucking robots, they're just going to have a robot like, hey, can you bring me a glass of water? And like, first of all, I don't want to have that thing in my fucking house. We'll see when we get there, because I don't want to have a girlfriend here. Why would I I don't want another human in my house. As much as I love people, why would I want to have a fucking machine, right, with eyes and leg? Like, it's not my thing. But even when that thing looks like a human and sounds like a human and is, smarter than all of us put together, which already is, ChatGPT is smarter than all of us put together. Like, it has the PhD in everything, right? Even at that level, I know there's going to be a percentage of people who won't mind it, and there will be definitely already romantic relationships between humans, guys, obviously, not so much women, guys with having AI girlfriends, right? And I think that around, my estimate would be that 10, maybe 15, maybe, depends how similar to humans they will look. Maybe up to 20% of guys will end up in relationships with AI robots, right? And obviously those are not the guys that are having a huge amount of success with the ladies today, right? So between being alone and feeling like I'm actually with them, between that and having an AI girlfriend, I would probably prefer AI girlfriend, right? But for most of us, we will be utilizing those tools just like I utilize it, like I'm sure you utilize it, to help me with things. But at no point I see how I'll be replacing humans in my life in any capacity with AI tools, because I do fucking appreciate and love human connection.
Yeah. And that's why I think, because a lot of people in lots of different industries are obviously worried about how AI is going to impact them. And I think in terms of personal development or personal growth, the word personal gives it away, doesn't it? It's what makes us human. And currently, who knows what will be in the future, it just doesn't have a sophistication to pick up on the complexities of human nature and behavior, or the nuances, or the different dynamics that are so bespoke to every human being, and that power of connection. So I have a similar view to yourself, actually, Michael. I can see why it's appealing. And I think for the everyday single goal focused stuff, it can be helpful. But for transformation, that's where I think you really need to see a real coach. I mean, we could go on that subject for a long time, so I'll just go on to something else. Okay, so having had this conversation, we've covered quite a lot here. So thank you so much, Michael. If anyone who's listening was to walk away with one thing after this conversation, what would you like it to be?
Get a coach.
How did I know you'd say that? Why should they get a coach?
That's a universal answer I always give to questions like that, because I believe that having a coach, and by coach I don't mean a life coach necessarily. Get a life coach if you want to improve your life. Get a fitness coach if you want to improve your fitness. Get an accent coach if you want to improve your accent, like I did 12 years ago. I don't know how many Polish people you've met, anybody listening, but they don't typically sound like me, because I'm a fucking genius and I came here at 22 and I've learned to speak with the accent. Obviously I still have an accent, right? But no, I spent 6 super fucking boring months with Tamara, my, bless her, great woman, my accent coach, to make me sound, to make me sound the way I sound now, to not to butcher this beautiful language too much, right? So I see coaching as the ultimate shortcut. I think it's dumb as fuck to try to do everything ourselves. This is, guys are the worst. Women are much more sophisticated when it comes to that. Guys, I'm a man. I shouldn't be asking for help. I should be able to do it myself. That would be like me saying, okay, my fucking shower broke. I'm not gonna call my handyman. No. I'm not gonna call a plumber. I'm a man. I should be able to fix it myself. So let me go on fucking YouTube and spend half a day trying to learn something, and then get the right tools and get the right, just because I'm a man, right? I should be able to fix it myself. Like my car breaks, I don't drive, but like my car breaks, I know nothing about cars. No. I'm not gonna take it to the car mechanic. I'm a man. So I don't see the difference between fixing a shower, fixing a car, and fixing life, accent, fitness. It's just different areas, right? Yeah. And just like we use a plumber or a car mechanic as a shortcut to get that thing that we need fixed, we should absolutely consider using different type of coaches for different kind of things in order to get to our goals sooner rather than later.
Yeah, absolutely. Just one final question, and I always finish with this one on the podcast because I always find the answers fascinating from my guests. Is there one book, other than your own brilliant book, of course, that you'd recommend to people to read, and why?
Sure. Let me see if I can get there without ruining the frame too much. So, what does a life coach who doesn't cook have in a kitchen drawer? A bunch of books, and the best book I've ever written is, let me just get it straight. It's this one here.
Mm-hmm. If you move it slightly over to the center a bit, just in front of your face a bit more. Can't see it the other way.
Hold on.
Wow.
It's an awful title. It's an awful title. But Naval is the one word that needs to be remembered for anyone interested in checking him out. He is someone who turned from being a successful entrepreneur to a thought leader. He started posting on what used to be called Twitter many years ago. And he has this incredible, he talks about personal development a lot, even though that's not the field that he came from, right? But he just has this incredible way of articulating himself. And this book is not written by him. It's written by somebody else who basically, with his permission, I'm sure, got his best articles and best tweets and put it together in a book. And this is the book, apart from my own book, which I give to people. This is the book that I've given the second most, because it's just fantastic. And sure enough, he talks about the things I always talk about. So happiness, health, and wealth, like how we want to look at those three areas. And the good life is on the intersection of those areas. And sure enough, when he talks about happiness, he talks about the importance of relationships with other people. That's the book. He uses a very simple and clear language. He's a very smart guy, but he speaks in a very easy to understand way. But there's definitely more depth to the way he writes, and therefore that's the book I recommend the most.
Well, thank you very much for sharing that, Michael, and also for your time today. It's been lovely to talk.
Thank you for having me. I had a blast.
Yeah, me too. You're welcome. Bye for now.
Thank you for listening to the Mindset Exchange podcast. That was my conversation with Michael Serwa. Performance comes from how you think, decide, and respond all the time, not just when things run smoothly. If this conversation gave you something to reflect on, feel free to share it with someone who'd appreciate it. See you next time.